Hello and welcome to 11.5 day 1. Here are the answers for 11.4, working with the Pythagorean theorem and the converse. Today we're going to be working with more things involving radicals. We're going to be working with what's called the distance formula today. And there's all your answers for 11.4. So the first thing I'm going to do with the distance formula is I'm actually going to show you guys that you don't actually need the distance formula. Well, sort of. But there are roundabout ways of doing it or applying it. So let's start with this here. What is the distance between -2, -1, and 3, 2? Now, what that means is how far is it from there to there? So one thing that you can do is you can draw a triangle, a right triangle, and you can apply the Pythagorean theorem. So the distance formula is actually no different than the Pythagorean theorem. And so the length of the vertical segment, the vertical leg is 1, 2, 3 units. And then the length of the horizontal segment is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. Okay, so we can find the hypotenuse using 3 squared plus 5 squared equals x squared. That'd be 9 plus 25, that's 34. And then square root both sides. And you have root 34 as your answer. That is the length between those 2 points there. So that's one way of doing it. And this kind of does a similar technique, kind of walking you through it using the Pythagorean theorem. But there's also this formula here. It's a distance formula. And it's basically what we just did, only it looks all fancy. And it allows you to do it without plotting the picture there. So it's the square root, and so you're going to square root everything at the very end. To do this, you're going to subtract your x values, you're going to square them. You're going to subtract your y values, you're going to square them. You're going to add them together, and then you're going to square root them. And that's kind of what we did here. We subtracted the x values, subtracted the y values, we squared each one of them individually, so 3 squared and 5 squared, added them together, and then we square root. So that's basically what the distance formula is. So I'm going to show you guys some examples here. So we're going to take our x values, and it doesn't matter the order, 5 minus -1 squared. You could do -1 minus 5 and then squared. You're going to get the same answer. So don't feel like you're like, which one's x1 and which one's x2. Just subtract the 2 x values. It doesn't matter. Okay, so here I have 6 squared is 36. Here I have -1 squared is +1. Keep in mind, -1 times -1 is +1, not -1, and the square root of 37 would be our answer. You can reduce your radicals, of course, always simplify your radicals. Now, here's a problem that you have to find the missing value of b, and there's generally going to be 2 answers. So these can have 2 solutions. Not always, but sometimes. Okay, so what we're going to do is, the distance is 5, they tell us that. And then we're just going to set up our formula, 7 minus 3 squared plus b minus -5 squared. And here we're going to square both sides to get rid of the square roots. So 25 equals 7 minus 3 squared, I should just have simplified this, 4 squared is 16. And then plus, and then b plus 5 squared. So this square gets rid of that square root, and we're just left with everything underneath the square root symbol. So we're going to subtract 16 to get 9, b plus 5, and then we're going to square root again. Here's where you got to be careful. We're square rooting 9, so that's 3 and -3. That's kind of the tricky part. As I mentioned earlier, you're likely going to have 2 answers for these, and right here you're going to see why we have 2 answers. -8 and -2. And so visually what that looks like is this. We have 3 -5. So we're going to go down here 3 -5. Okay, we have 2 answers. we have 7, negative 2, and we have 7, negative 8. And so what this is saying is that's 5 units from there to there, and that's 5 units from there to there. So they both have the x coordinate 7, and they're 5 units away. So those are kind of unique questions, and I'm probably going to do one more of those on my video. You guys can do these. These are pretty straightforward, but these are the trickier ones where you have to find one of the missing values. So 3 equals the square root of 4 minus 1 squared. And I'm actually just going to make things simpler, I'm just going to put a 9 there. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Plus a minus 2 squared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to square both sides. This gets rid of that. So 9 equals 9 plus a minus 2 squared. I'm going to subtract 9, so 0 equals a minus 2 squared. Now this is a case where we're only going to have one answer actually, and the reason for that is because when I square root 0, 0 is just 0, and you don't have plus or minus 0. So this is a scenario where you only have one answer. So sometimes you're going to have 2 and sometimes you'll have 1. Okay, that's all I got for you guys. Next day is going to be our midpoint formula. That's the second portion of 11.5. So tune in for that, and let me know if you guys have any questions. Thank you.